Welcome to the In the Middle podcast, a podcast where we talk about every avenue of life because life really takes place in the middle, not the beginning, not the end. How do we navigate the middle? Hey everybody, welcome back. We took a hiatus. A lot of stuff has gone on in life, but here we are at the start of 2025 with a new season of In the Middle. It's going to be different. Some weeks it's going to be just me talking to you. Some weeks it'll be with a guest. Some weeks you may see a recurring guest as we pick things up. But what I wanted to lean into at the start of this season is going to be around just who we are and how our identity at its very core is the same, but life brings at us different seasons and we change, don't we? Different situations change us. And so I've been really ruminating and around who am I and how much of who I am is because of what I do or because of what I've got responsibility for, or it really is who I am. And I think it's a combination of all of it. So with us today on the podcast, we're going to have a bit of a chat. This could go really funky, but it could be great, is my son, Aaron. And we're just going, seriously, we have no script. We are going to just have a conversation just around those themes of identity and roles and responsibility and how they impact who we are, both good and bad. And we'll get into a bit of life and how that's going. So prepare yourself for the next, 30, 40 minutes for a nice chat, and let us know in the comments if you want to know a bit more. All right, okay, based upon that, Aaron, just in case, I don't think so, there's anybody on the podcast who doesn't know who you are, give the 30-second cliff notes of who is Aaron.
30-second cliff notes. Aaron is 27, going to be 28 this year. I feel like that's officially old in my head.
Thanks for that.
My knees feel that way anyway. I have to actually do real warm-ups now before I do things. But I'm 27. I'm the college pastor here at Grace. I'm married to Eleanor. I have a son who turns 1 today, whose name is Crew. And we have a little girl on the way who is due in May.
Awesome. So depending on when you're listening to this,
Yep.
We're recording this in mid-February 2025, so February 12th. So, whenever you're listening to this, that's the journey. So, Aaron, your world is completely transformed in, I would say, for sure, in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Like a complete transformation. If you were to look at the summer of 2021, so we're coming up on 4 years, you could say, in that cycle, it's completely transformed. So with that and your identity, can you recall anything in any part of your life? So you, nearly 4 years ago, you weren't married. You now are. Mm-hmm. You weren't a dad. You now are. You just stepped into ministry and college ministry, but what that was then and what it is now is completely different. There's all of that going on. That's a lot of change in a really small, short space of time. With that change, let me put you on the spot here. Give me one thing that's been good and one thing that's been really challenging about that.
There's all the good in those new roles. Obviously I love being married, love being a dad, love being a pastor. And all the good in that is, especially within ministry, is that it's grown. I think that role as the college pastor here has changed every year since then, because it's felt like a new ministry every year in terms of size, but not in terms of base and culture. But we grew from when I came on. We started the college ministry. There was a young adult crowd, but not many college age. And now we have about 1,000 students every week, and that was within 4 years. And then becoming a husband and then a dad after Crew was born, about a year and a half after we got married. So like a year and 9 months. So I think all of that is really positive. What's hard is when things are changing really quick, is you have to change really quick, and the person you were before doesn't fit what you're in now. It's not that the like I think what's I heard a lot around college students is that people don't want to change, they want to stay who they are, and that means that their life doesn't change ever. So I think what's hard is I've had to change a lot about what I like, what I don't like, what keeps me healthy, what doesn't. So I think because naturally I'm a very introverted person, so I'd speak to the ministry side of things is I really like to be around either a small group of people or no one. And so having to lead a ministry on Thursdays of 1,000 people is difficult for me. But I was telling, I was at a like a young adult pastors thing a week ago, and I was telling them that I really feel like that's why I can tell people that I wasn't aiming for numbers, because ideally in my head that isn't ideal, which shows that I feel like God's favor was just on it and just made it happen, because naturally Aaron doesn't naturally want to be around that many people, so it just kind of happened. So I feel like that's a hard thing within it, is the role I have as a pastor isn't naturally what is normally me, but I've been able to bring something to a 1,000 person ministry that still feels like introverts can be present as well.
Okay, this really helps. I was thinking about saying this, but now you've convinced me. I think for the next few episodes, I want us to look at like who we are, but based upon the word roles, roles, roles. When you have a role, that comes with responsibility. So you just described you have a role as a husband, a role as a dad, a role as the college pastor, a role as a friend, a role as a brother. We've got these different roles, but none of them are static. Like, it's not like, oh, there's the task, do it by this point. They're very organic. So let's look at that word R, the letter R for the word roles. You've got responsibilities in them, but then you've got relationships in them. So let's just sit in that for a little bit, and we can mull over that together. So I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a grandfather, and then I'm a pastor, and then the other fill in the blank, all those other roles. Each of them comes with responsibility. So speaking to the level of responsibility you had 4 years ago compared to now is exponentially so different. It was like you, yourself, and I know you were dating, but it was you, yourself, and I. But now you've got responsibility. It sounds heavy, but for other people's lives, literally. How does that make you think? How does that make you feel? Have you recognized adjustment in that based upon the fact that you said you're more introvertedly relational? So just talk about that responsibility of those roles that you've now got, and especially the drastic change in the last few years.
I think my naturally introverted self is in that I don't mean it in a way that I don't like people. I mean it in a way that I don't need to have a massive group of friends. Like, I'm okay with like a small group of really, really, really good friends. And I think that's actually served me well in all the changes in ministry, because I don't know who said it, but I think it's true. He said, in a normal person, I don't know if he used the word normal, but a regular person's life, in their life they go through at least 7 relational transitions in their whole life, meaning like really close people who are then not close people. And then he said, pastors and people who work in ministry go through about 7 a year. And so I think that, and the role I have, and being a bit more introverted, has motivated me that wouldn't be the case. But I think it's meaning that people are just, it's kind of like a revolving door, especially when it's college ministry, is people
Yeah.
graduate,
Yeah.
people move on, people move states.
Yeah.
But I think what Eleanor and I have done well is investing in the people that we want to be our people. And so it's making sure that in a lot of change you can keep some things the same, that's worth keeping the same, and then holding things that shouldn't keep the same loosely.
Mm.
So that's what I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You hear this phrase, or I hear this phrase, I have an opinion on it anyway. So you've got these responsibilities, these roles you play. Balance. What does that mean to you? What does the word balance mean to you with your responsibilities
Yeah.
and these roles that you play? Like, what does it look like now? And yeah, just talk about that.
Yeah. I think when you try and use balance in your life at all times, it's meaning that it's trying to keep an even scale of everything in your life, but that's not possible.
Right.
Like, as in, you have to look where needs more weight and where doesn't sometimes, and it's not always going to be even. I was talking to a friend slash mentor of mine, and I was asking him that. I was like, I feel like I'm all out of balance. I don't have a balance of things in life. Like right now, it feels really heavily ministry, and like this feels out of balance, or my personal health or things that I really like feels out of balance. And he's like, stop trying to balance and just focus on what needs your attention right now and what's going to be okay. And I feel like that's more of a balance. And it's all, I don't know if you heard, like, I mean, you say it all the time. It's like look at life as a garden a bit more. Like no garden is fruitful 365 days a year.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look at what needs watering right now, what doesn't. I feel like that's more of what we mean by balance, more than trying to make sure everything's like on an even level playing field. So,
because all those roles are demanding your attention, but
yeah,
you've got to
so
discern which one needs
some,
my
yeah, exactly.
attention today.
Yeah, and so, yeah, but then you can find balance in some ways of that. I'm like, although I personally at this moment don't feel unfit or that my personal health isn't good, you still have to keep doing things that will keep it that way.
Right.
So it's not like just dismissing things. It's saying what needs just more attention right now and what's going to be able to sustain itself for a while.
Right. Right.
So for me, it's like playing basketball every Sunday night isn't just, I don't just do it seasonally where I need to. Like I have to do that all the time.
Why?
Because I have this like craving's a weird word for it, but I'll just say it because you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Craving to like be competitive, do something that I just really enjoy that's outside of everything else, where I can just not think about anything and just do something I enjoy.
Yep. It's a healthy appetite, so it's a craving.
Yeah. But sometimes things would come up on a Sunday where I can't do that, but my wife Ella's seen that isn't beneficial. Like, for the sake of skipping something that's only 2 hours out of my week because we're really busy, we'll make the things we're really busy for not good.
Okay.
If I just take 2 hours away from them and make sure.
Which is back down to that. If I'm not replenishing, I'm not refueling, I'm not reviving, then I can't do what I'm meant to do. So, so for you, basketball once a week is a source of tank refuel so that you can carry out the responsibilities in life healthier. Yeah, healthier. Is there anything else that, let's talk about that. The what drains you and what fills you question is a very common question in the world, and I think we're a little bit cliche with it. But for you, what used to drain you and fill you 4 years ago will be very different to now. So lean into that a little bit around your responsibilities, these roles you play. How do you, how do you hope to be healthy in them? You can break them down if you want into each role.
I think I'm unhealthy as a a pastor and as a preacher specifically in the realm of ministry when the only time in my Bible and in Bible study and in prayer is only around my message.
Yep.
So I think
Yep.
I found to have bad weeks and bad days of writing sermons when that week I've spent no time doing it just for my own life. But it's weird, like you don't choose to just do that. Like you don't choose to only make your spiritual life about what you're going to preach on a Thursday night. It just kind of, if you're not careful, is what will naturally happen. And so what I was realizing was I'm not getting fueled spiritually in my time with God for me ever. It was always I'm getting fueled spiritually through God for other people. But then so it would just become kind of tedious. And so a refueling for me is spending time alone. Refueling for me is just being with Elle, or her and I love to get out the house. We are like homebodies, like we like to just hang out at home, but if we're in the house too long, it's just like I feel like I'm in a cave. So just getting out and just doing things we like, trying new coffee shops and just hanging out. So yeah, refueling's way different to what it was for me in college. In college it was let me just eat Chick-fil-A and watch basketball on YouTube, and now it's like doing more intentional like times to be by myself and deep think or go work out. I gained a love for running about a year ago, and I had to adapt in life again last year because I couldn't run because I had like a really bad knee. So I was adapting to new things that would do the same effect and all that kind of thing. But I found ways that Thursday nights being around a lot of people wasn't draining for me anymore. And that was through delegating and giving other people responsibilities and all that.
So for people who maybe aren't aware of like Unified, which is the college ministry that you lead, it started from maybe 40, 50 at the most college kids in that first little semester, and it got into 100 or so, and then it went to 300 or so, then it went to 500, and then it went to 1,000. That's the annual. It wasn't an increment. The annual growth happened like that. But you have a team. So how many volunteers make up a Thursday night Unified?
Our Unified team is, so I'm the college pastor, and then we just got Kate Corpus, who is the associate director, and then under that, Ashley is a next gen admin, and then volunteer wise, team wise, is about 55.
That's what I wanted to communicate.
55 leaders.
You have mobilized 55 volunteers to make that work, but they really own it. Like that's the culture of like really owning it. But that's so how do you manage the expectation of 1,000 people, but then the expectation of 50 other people who really are serving, they're serving the church, they're serving that ministry, but they're serving you. So what weight does that bring onto you? How do you manage that expectation? Talk
I used to feel a massive weight of, because all the other pastors and ministries that I would listen to and find inspiration from or being inspired by, it was always about empowering your volunteers to do. It was always these are ways that you can emphasize the gifts of people that come into your ministry who want to volunteer, give them things to do, all this. And I was always so in my head about that because our ministry is so insanely simple that I was like, I don't have much for them to invite them into of physical tasks. And so I was just trying to like shift that of these are what all these other ministries like strive to do. I cannot do that the same way. And I just like changed my mindset to I'd rather them graduate college, move on, and instead of them saying at Unified I learned how to do, I want them to be able to say at Unified I learned how to be.
Stop.
And so,
Okay, that was worth
Yeah.
all of your time, all of it. This is the critical nature of this. In our identity, if our identity is always based on what we do, you're just going to get burnt out and leave you
or
short.
even your view of church, if it all
Yeah.
your only view of church is what I do for it,
Yeah,
then
yeah,
it's going to be
yeah.
draining.
And instead of who
Yeah.
I'm becoming is the key one. And as we journey through this thing of roles, I'm just at the letter R for, responsibilities. Responsibilities are always best when they're done with relationships. And I think we'll just lean into that. But this whole area of who we are with other people and for other people is just huge. It's just huge. So you want college kids to come in and to when they graduate and to move all over the world wherever they go, having grown, knowing it's who they are, not based upon what they do,
Yeah.
but who they're becoming, and it's being comfortable with that because it's getting difficult to measure.
Because if you create a ministry in a church that is only that way here, then what about when they move in a new church, they find a new ministry they decide to serve isn't the same? Then suddenly they don't know who they are.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I was more
Yeah.
just trying to like, when they move on, who they've become, who they are becoming, who they are, they know how to be that person, despite the tasks they're doing.
Right. Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so
And that will then lean into it. And I ask the question to all of you, like when somebody says, "Who are you?" Like, who are you? You go, "Oh yeah," and we either default go into what we do, or this is my job, or this is like the "Who are you?" question. And I'll just say it now as a 55-year-old. In the last quarter of last year, that whole identity piece. And if you're a young person listening, you think, "Oh yeah, I'm going through all this." It'll hit you again. Like it'll hit you again. And I think we go through seasons, and I thought it was an identity crisis, and it kind of isn't. It's just an identity reformation. You're just reforming. Things are changing. And if you're not aware of that, then that can really knock you off. So that whole thing of who am I is a really, really, really core question. I'll go to the spiritual on it and imagine God asks you the question, who are you? The question I think we should throw back is, okay, God, but who do you say I am? Like, who do you say I am? And to sit in that and to understand your passions, your personality, your gifts, your what is it? And with it is some of it is like my identity as a husband isn't a role. It's not a task. It's an identity. Like that's an identity. Like that nobody else is appointed to be my wife's husband. That's me. I'm a dad. Nobody else is appointed to be the dad of my 4 not so young children. Do you know what I mean? Adult children. That is a role, but it's an identity. I'm a grandpa. It's an identity. So these all build. The pastor one, the lead pastor at Grace, is a role that somebody else can do. Somebody else can do them. But it is a role that I have to embrace, and I want to bring my very best to it. But the other 3 that I mentioned, they're irreducible minimums. But I think our culture is very driven by the things that we do define who we are. And I think that's just something we should wrestle with and think through.
I feel
An
like
example.
especially young people are, and in college age, is that you're trying to do to find who you are,
Okay.
not
But they're
and what
experimenting. Is that not a
yeah.
good
So
thing?
that's not it's not a bad thing that they, but it's when if you're trying to find and do all these things to try and find what you like,
Right.
that's fine. But when you're trying to do to create a mindset within yourself that you know who you are, it's just not going to go well.
Okay.
I think it's more, yeah, like you do out of who you are, right? So I'm Elle's husband. That's an identity I have. I love her and treat her well and spend time with her because that's
Right.
the identity.
Right.
But young people are very quick to try and get an identity, not
Okay.
do out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. So talk to me about, and we're changing subject to some degree, but because we've got Aaron here, it makes sense. Like in all of my years in church world, in full-time ministry, which is like 33 years, all of that, I've never seen a generation like I see right now. And to see so many, Gen Z, whatever, just like flooding into the Big C Church globally, the engagement of spiritual questions and the even the intrigue around faith and all of that. We have people walk on our campus on a Sunday, and I'll say, "Oh, okay, who brought you? Nobody. Why are you here?" Life kind of is hard. I'm just giving church a try. Like what? Like there's just a lot of that. How'd you find us? Google. Like it's so different now. But you've got like 1,000 of these kids from multiple different schools. What is that? What is it you see? Why is that? I have to say to some degree, why is that meeting a need? Why is that? Where's that hunger come from that they want that? What
Yeah.
do you think?
I think so for me growing up in high school, it was the whole aspect of being associated with a religion or following God was seen as like weird or boring or too
Out of date.
too out of date
Yeah.
or too deep. And like for me growing up, it was cool to like not have depth or not have things that are authentic. It was just like whatever's easiest, like whatever's like.
Okay.
I think now it's all shifting the completely other way, where students who are showing up by themselves by Googling it or finding it on social media and coming alone is because they're done with the whole aspect of following God or thinking there's actually a God that's out there isn't weird or boring anymore. It's like, wait, I think if it's true, I need it. So I think when they're not seeing it now as like it's not appealing, they've gone through so much or they just feel so empty that they're just like, if it is real, that could be a solution. And so they go to see if it is.
Is that why when they do find that it's real, they dive all in?
Yeah. Yeah, because these students, they're done with like fluff as well. Everything they want is just real, authentic. And so when they find something authentic that's real for themselves, they're all the way in because you cannot find real, authentic anywhere right now. Everything like feels fake. All of the social media influences, it feels like it's just a show. Like everything, I think that's why I read something that in the last 5 years, reality TV viewing has tripled. And I think it's partly because they just want to feel like even what they're watching is real life.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
so like
interesting.
even
That's interesting.
so I think this generation, especially Gen Z, is just trying to find something that's real, that can be real for their life, and then when it is, they're all in. So even if that means showing up to a place with 1,000 people all by themselves, they're just like, I'm willing to see if this is true, because I need it.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and recognize that. You keep using this word authentic, real. Like, well, help the older crowd out with that a little bit. Like, so what you're saying is that our generation doesn't want authentic or real. I'm being deliberately provocative in that. But what you're saying is that this generation. So give an example of how unified as a culture is authentic. What is it that they see that they're able to be there and go, oh, this is real, this is authentic? What is that?
There's no like sense of. We just don't feel as a ministry team the obligation to entertain people. So I think when college age students show up to this, it's just really, really stripped back of the people on the stage don't feel like they're that different to you. That makes sense. Like, so I feel like I faced for a really long time within church that started, it was with a good heart that it was like, we want this place to be somewhere that's really appealing, that people want to be in. And then over time, it being that way got way too deep into the people who are leading this thing are really above everyone else. And so I think students who show up here, like, we purposely do just like little things that will change the mindsets of them. Like I personally, I speak every single week, but I'm really nowhere to be found on the social media, or there's like we haven't built a ministry around a type of a person or a personality, or anything like that. It's just like, this is real. Everyone who comes can know the people who are leading it. So many people come to Grace. There's the tiniest thing that convinced them that this is the church they want to be at is because you're on the porch and available to be talked to. Because in so many places that's not real. So I think that's what I mean by authentic and real, is that everyone there, including the people leading it, are just normal people.
Approachable, normal, down to earth, just like you. Hang out.
A student told me recently, you like this verse too. I don't know exactly where it is in the Bible, but it's the part where it says, I think it says Elijah was a man just like you and me.
Just like us. James 5.
James 5.
And
he told me that's his favorite verse because it was like, when he read that as a really young person in high school, he was like, oh, like, that means I can be this.
Right. Yeah,
and
Elijah,
that's what it needs to feel all the time.
Just like us. He was just a man, just like us. He prayed that it wouldn't rain, and it didn't rain. But you're right. Yeah, just like us.
Yeah.
And I think that's getting down to that. You know, I know there's been discussion around in certain areas of, you know, green rooms or whatever they call them, where, you know, the people on the stage, you know, are separated from. Well, that may be the case for a concert, but this is the church and we're family, and you know, it's we are in and around the people, in and around the people. Great. This whole thing about this one we'll look at, you know, like, who are we and how are we going? We do have roles, and we do have responsibility with them roles. But the ones that involve relationship are more important than the other things. And so we're just going to like sit in that. I think I use this word roles and give you some other words. Our responsibilities and relationships. The O would be these roles give us opportunities, and they also give us, if we have some clear objectives, some why behind it, that helps. If we have, you know, a situation where the L would be, some of us, that's leadership, that's a role, but we should always be learning. The E would be expectations of people. Let me just, before we finish, let me dive into that one, expectations, and then we'll pick it up. What are some of the expectations you sense in your roles that are just unrealistic at times, that can be so burdensome? They may be unwritten expectations.
And more of an expectation I put on myself that was very recent was about 5 weeks ago now. I feel like I preached the best message I've ever done in my life. And then the next week and the week after and the week after that, I was having a horrible time preparing a message and couldn't do it because I was trying to do it as good as that week or better than or even better. And so it was, that was an expectation I was putting on myself that I feel like I was putting on myself because I felt like that's what the people coming were expecting, but they weren't. They're expecting to show up they're coming next week and they're going to bring people next week because of how good it was last week. This week better be the same, or if not better, and then living that way. You're just not going to get better because you're just trying to be something that has already happened and not attending to.
And
what
that's
this
the
week is.
double-sided coin when somebody comes up to you and says, that was the best
Yeah.
you've ever done.
Yeah.
That was the best message I've ever heard you come. It's a double-sided coin because on one side you go, oh, wow, thanks, what a great compliment. The other side of it is, oh, great. Like, now what? Like, now what? And so, yeah, if you're a person who's an encourager, I'm not saying don't tell the person that was great. Maybe just don't go with that was the best you've ever done. Because inside of our head, like Aaron said, that actually puts an unnecessary pressure to go, if that was the best ever, where do I go from here? Like, just go, that was really, really good. Like, just here we go. Because, so your biggest pressure is the expectation you put on yourself.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
Interesting. Really interesting. And navigate that. Yeah. All right. So over the few weeks, I think I'll probably get Aaron back on again on a few of these and we'll just talk about things in life. But I just wanted to set you up for this season. Who are you? Like, who are you really? And we can't ignore the roles we play. But really the question is, like, who am I really? And is who I am really feeding the health of my life or the roles that I play? And it's a very in the middle thing. It's a very in the middle thing that we navigate. So I hope that this conversation we just had, and thanks to Aaron, just talking about that, causes you to stop and to think and maybe talk about it as well and help one another. Life really is this art form. It's not a science. It's just so unpredictable at times, but good. So great. Enough for now. Join us for the next episode that'll be coming up real soon. Please like, please share. If you're not registered on our social media, do that. Let's, put the word out so we can continue this conversation, make comments, ask questions. Great. Okay. So until next time, see you soon.